No, I'm not doing it. Chad is doing it.
BARF! Welcome to Cozy in the BARF on 106.9 FM 69. Just kidding. This is Respawn Aim Fire, the Kick-Ass Irreverent Gaming Podcast brought to you by Affable Idiots. This is a very special episode. A special episode for several reasons. One, we only do one of these a month.
Hold on the video version, why is that the smallest screenshot of all time at the center of the screen?
Because it's also the largest screenshot of all time in the back of the screen.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this a Minish Cap reference? Are we referencing the fact that we played Minish Cap, a game in which you shrink down and become super duper tiny? Because if
Who the fuck is talking? We don't know because we haven't introduced that person yet. Because
any critique that I might have had a moment ago when I was pointing that out.
Say,
Joel,
doing it.
You're doing great.
Hi everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Chad Michael. I'm little baby Minish. Innes. We've got our normal co-host here, regular ass co-host. I mean, you are above average. We have Adam, above average, highly in person, Gumbert. How are you?
Above average on 106.9, the douche. Oh yeah, give it to me, douche.
And then we've got over here our rap regular Cozy and the Barf. Cozina, Alex. Cozina,
so here's what I'll say. A couple of weeks ago, feels like maybe months ago at this point, there was that like meme online of like the one guy in the wizard costume that would go around and harass like Burger King employees and people like that. I feel like that meme, it was a fun concept that I feel quickly turned sour by the fact that he was harassing people that just don't deserve to be harassed at all. In an alternate universe where that whole meme didn't turn sour, I feel like we could have done something really cool for Halloween, Chad, and had you go as Chad Michael Minish and dress you up as like a Minish dude and done the same thing with your knees walking around all small. That could have been really cool.
I was gonna say something mean, but that was actually really good. So
there we
I
go.
Can't say it anymore.
There we
go. A very, very expensive cameo. Normally cameos are like a minute or less, but we paid for an hour of this person's time over on Cameo. Famous ball haver, Dane, played the game with us first time, or many, long-time listener, sometime podcaster, Deasy. How are you, Dane?
I am doing very well today. I actually looked it up. The last time I guested was when we did Control in 2021, I believe it was.
2019 Game of the Year, baby.
Yeah, that was a fantastic time, so I'm excited to be back.
So that's what? That's 2 years the first time, 3 years the next, and then, all right, so the next one's 2028. We'll have you back.
Hopefully we can turn the trend around.
Love it. Yes, please. This is our special episode, again, because it's a monthly episode. Before Cozy cut me off, I was going to say this is a once-a-month episode where you all tell us what to play. It is a backlog accomplishment with Respawn and Friends episode. You tell us over on patreon.com/respawnaimfire and twitter.com/respawnaimfire. And this month, you told us you wanted us to play The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap. Now, did you do that because I provided you a list of games and I stole Cozy's spot? Unknowingly, and maybe it was subconscious, maybe it was a Freudian thing, and I don't know. But we also have a second episode because Dane's here, famous ball man, and we're going to jump into this.
I was hoping the balls would come up right away. I'm glad they have.
Always. In fact, in my brain, I have this thing where I've just like overwritten your video with a nutsack.
Nice. I thought about making a mask to wear for you all, but I thought that'd be a little much.
We'll give context. We're not actually talking about human testicles.
No.
Unfortunately. When the Nintendo Switch launched, Dane was the only person I knew who had the game 1-2 Switch. And he said...
I waited overnight in the Target garage in order to buy...
For 1-2 Switch specifically?
1-2 Switch. Well, on launch, you know. Yeah. I felt like it came with it, but no. I paid money for that game.
One day, this game will receive a sequel starring a guy with a horse mask, and I need to be there for ground zero.
There's a game in 1-2 Switch where you have to guess how many balls are rolling around in the Joy-Con, and Dane let me feel the Joy-Con so I could feel what HD haptics felt like in 1-2 Switch. And that was the birth of Dane Deasy's balls.
Yes. Can you believe it's been so long since you last held my balls in your hand?
Yeah, it's 7 years.
Crazy.
There's this big, like, weightless void in my palm at all times. Whew.
They're there
All right,
in
let's jump
spirit.
in. The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap was a game that came out on Game Boy Advance. I copied and pasted a lot of things from Wikipedia. Didn't paste when this game came out. 2004 on
It
Game Boy
came out-
Advance-ish.
it
2004
came out
in
in
the
2000
Europe.
I was going to say 2005 in North America, 2004
Yeah, January
in the other
2025.
territories.
So this is part of what I copy and pasted. Well, not part of what I read in Wikipedia. They released it first in Europe, which is the first time Nintendo has done something like this. But because they wanted it to be out, they wanted it to be like the game in Europe because the DS was
Right.
not out in time in Europe. So they were like, "Hey, Zelda's the thing you're going to buy from Nintendo in Europe, but in the United States, the DS was out." And they didn't want to cannibalize sales of the DS. So they're like, we're going to release Zelda after the holiday season. So yeah, it came out in January of 2005 here in the great continent of North America. It is a game that is the second game ever in the official Zelda timeline, right after Zelda the Skyward Sword. So this happens directly prior to Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures, and prior to every other Zelda game that's ever happened.
That is actually incorrect. Four Swords Adventures occurs in the child timeline after The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Go on.
Nerd. So yeah, anyways, this is a prequel to Four Swords, and it is a very highly rated game. It has a Metacritic score of 89. It got wonderful reviews. It is ranked as the 20th best GBA game by IGN. It was GameSpot's GBA Game of the Year in 2005. Isn't that wild how we used to do that for like platforms? Like, do we still do that? I don't know. Jeff Keighley has changed everything. The game is a game that was actually this team that started this, Capcom, and the other team that starts with the F that I didn't write down for my copy paste. I think I just read it straight from the article instead of copy pasting next time. So Capcom Figurine is another one. Nope, just lied. I lied. It's another F word. Capcom was developing a sequel to Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages that was going to be around Feor instead of Din and Feror instead of Din and Nehru. And that got canceled halfway through when Nintendo said, hey, do this instead. It's a GBA game. We're going to call it the Minish Cap. It's going to be all about Zelda shrinking down with a little baby hat. And they said, cool, we're going to do that now. And this is the third Zelda Capcom game. And from what I could find, the last? Question mark, Cozy?
Yeah. So just real quick, the other development studio that you were referring to was its scenario writing subsidiary Flagship.
Nailed it. So yes, this game was canceled Oracle of Secrets in order to make this, and it, for me personally, it's maybe one of the best Zelda games I've ever played. Spoilers for my thoughts later. No, you can't. I still have more to say. This game the Minish Minish Cap. I don't actually have more things to say. I'm just trying to scroll through these things to make Cozy not be able to talk. Oh, it introduced several new things. The titular Four Sword from Four Swords. Also the villain Vati. Well, it didn't introduce Vati, but it defines all these things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now Cozy, what do you want to say?
I just want to add just a little bit more context to the kind of development leading up to this game. So in addition to developing the Oracle games, and obviously this game, Capcom also developed the original Four Sword, which, if you remember, the whole deal with that game is it was a 2-pack. You got a Game Boy Advance cartridge that had a not remake, but just like a modern re-release of A Link to the Past. And then on the other side of the cartridge, you had Four Swords. And back in the day, very hard game to play on the Game Boy Advance because you had to have a link cable and someone else with their own copy of the game to play it with. And a fun fact about Four Swords, recently I replayed it because it was made available on the Nintendo Switch Online service as well, alongside this game. And like, it's a pretty short experience. It's very much feels like a, how should I say, prototype for what we would get with Four Swords Adventures a few years later on the GameCube. But some fun stuff in there, including an item in the game called the Nat Cap, GNET, which basically is the Minish Cap in all but name. Like, it is weird to go back and play Four Swords and be like, oh man, there's a lot of like assets and like straight up items that like would basically be taken wholesale and fleshed out entirely in the Minish Cap, but we don't think of it as stuff that the Minish Cap borrowed. We think of the Minish Cap and all the items and assets in the Minish Cap as stuff that Minish Cap wholly introduced. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, it makes sense because going back to the Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, this is a story all about how these little tiny people named the Picari is what we call them, but the Minish is what
Picori.
they call themselves. Picori, whatever. The Minish is what they call themselves, and they only come here once every 100 years. And they're only seen by children. And one of them gets turned into a little hat that makes you go shrinky down and stuff like that. And that hat disappears at the end of the game. So, canonically, later on in Four Swords Adventures, they can't have the Minish Cap be the thing. They have, a new one that makes you a gnat because the Minish are gone for the next 99 years. So, it makes sense canonically. This is a game that is a top-down Zelda game. You can see, actually, shout out to Joel, who's playing it on the stream right now. Oh, not anymore. Now it's back to screenshots. We're going to go around real quick. We're going to focus this up. We're going to focus up, y'all. We're going to go around. I just want to hear top-level thoughts. This means like 2 or 3 sentences max, Cozy. Top-level thoughts. We'll get into we'll let you talk. Hold on, we'll get into the long stuff. Also, how did you play this game? I don't want to like get you in trouble with the law, but I'm just curious. How did you play this game? Because it is a game that is available in many places nowadays, legally and illegally. Yeah, then we'll talk about it. I'll start by just saying I played it on my analog pocket. I bought an actual cartridge of the game off of eBay for too much money.
Nice.
And played most of it. I played a little bit of it locally on the analog pocket, and then I docked the pocket in my bedroom and played it with a Super Nintendo Bluetooth controller.
Ooh.
And that was how I played the majority of the game. And as I alluded to earlier, I enjoyed this game a lot. There are a couple of things we'll get to in a little bit that were frustrating or dumb that I did not enjoy, but most of this game was really great. I enjoyed it a lot. One of my favorite Zelda games. Dane, tell me about how you played it.
So I also spent way too much money buying a copy of the game, which I then, transferred onto my Delta emulator, of course. That
of course,
it really enjoyed playing this game on all my devices. Actually, my iPhone, iPad Pro, really beautiful on that OLED display. Also played it on the Apple Vision Pro, which was fantastic. Ooh. And if you've ever seen a GBA screen blown up to be like 90 feet tall on a shore of a lake, it's quite an experience. But yeah, overall, this game was very refreshing for me. I had a great time. It was like being transported back into childhood. My favorite is the Super Nintendo one. For some reason, I can't remember the name
Link to the
at
Past.
the moment. Link to the Past. Thank you so much. And this felt a lot like that, which I really appreciated. My biggest thought is like, I was just thinking, I'm so happy this isn't an open world game. Like the whole time I was playing it. Like, oh yes, it's a constrained environment. Only so many places you can go. The weapon system, I'll talk more later about that. But yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed it. Oh, and I wanted to mention too, I literally beat the final boss about 8 hours ago today. So It was good timing getting it right in under the wire.
Frick yeah. This is all for me, this is a rarity nowadays. I beat this game. I played it all the way through. Mm-hmm. And played what I thought was most of the side quests, and then in searching for screenshots, found out fucking Tingles in this game all over the place, and I never saw that bitch once.
What? There are like not just Tingle, but there are 4 of him running around doing their thing.
In different color little outfits, little leotards. Adam, tell me about how you played this game and your top level thoughts.
Played it on YouTube. Watched people play it on YouTube.
You mean via Stadia? You were watching a streamer play it, and then you clicked the one button that allowed you to launch it in your browser and play it with the Stadia remote?
Yeah, sure. Just like how you guys legally played the games. No, what I decided was I can't play a Zelda game unless it's top 22 best-selling Zelda game, and this is number 23, so I just wasn't able to play it, unfortunately. But no, I mean, I have played the other Capcom ones. I like the Oracle ones a lot, and it was fun watching speed play and normal plays of this, so there you go, Minish Cap.
All right, guys, it's time for a timeout. Adam, I said ahead of time that I was going to take you to task, and I am going to take you to task. So here's the deal. At the beginning of the year, Adam was like, I hate the fact that nobody plays these super cool PC games until they come to consoles a year later. I keep telling you guys about all these cool PC games, and you're like, nah, I'll pass on them. And then at the end of Game of the Year time, I'm like, see, I told you so. These PC games are great. And says, you know what, Adam? That's not an unfair critique. I think that if people want to respect me as a critic, as a connoisseur of games, I do need to be better at playing these wayward PC games. And so I told you, you have, throughout the year of 2024, 3 Adam picks. At any point, you can point to 3 different games and say, Cozy, you have to play this PC game this year. And I would be obliged to play it. I think that we have to introduce the Cozy pick, which is where when we're obliged to play an old-ass Nintendo game that is at least 20 years old and easily available, allegedly, on PC, I have to force Adam to play it because he keeps weaseling out of these. And frankly, I am sick and tired of it.
I would say, stop picking old-ass Nintendo games that are very difficult to find to play unless you own a Switch, because guess who doesn't own a Switch? This guy.
I would also say, in Adam's defense, he did fucking play Kerbal Space Program, and you forced him to do that. So
not the same, anyways.
No, I hear you, Cozy. It's just that I don't have a place to play it, and
you definitely.
I could have figured it out on PC, but I don't have the emulator installed, so
it's very technically challenging.
Yes.
Reach out to me.
Yeah.
I allegedly.
He doesn't have the graphics card.
I allegedly might have information that would allegedly, hypothetically, allow you to allegedly play some of these games.
Because my alleged things in the basement are, I'm looking at the list of them, and I don't actually have GBA on there. So if you want to give me another box in my attic with GBA on it, let me know, because I will definitely download that.
I allegedly might just do that. Chad has disappeared somewhere. What's
so many allegations.
For the record, yes, I do actually make irresponsible financial decisions. I do.
All right, everybody else show your
Zelda
copies.
The Minish cap.
Everybody
show your
else
copies.
show your
All right,
copies.
on the count of 3.
I'm wired in, guys. I can't step away, you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I stole mine, so I can't show it.
He has an actual cartridge. He just stole it from some kid.
Beat him up on the schoolyard.
All right, so this game, I want to...
I just want to
did
say
you even
real
say
quick,
the things you were supposed to say, or did you just yell it at him?
I had a lot of fun with this game. I played it on Nintendo Switch Online. This is a game I previously played back in the day on the GBA. Also played it on the 3DS because I was part of the Nintendo Ambassador program, where they gave a bunch of SNES and GBA games to people that got the 3DS early before they did the price slash. This is my the first time I played the game in over a decade, and I really enjoyed it. I think this game is a really great send-up to all of the prior Zelda games that had released up until that point, which it's funny because this game is now firmly in the middle of the overall history of the Legend of Zelda series because of how long the series has been around.
Okay. I want to start this by bitching about it. I want us all to say all the things you hate about it, because I want us to end on the high note, because there's a lot of things that I love about it. So let's start by just get it all out, say all the shitty things right now, so that when we're around family and friends, we can pretend like we're civilized human beings.
Okay, so
who's got something
can I
shitty
start?
you want to say? Yeah, go, Dane, go.
Did anyone try redeeming the shells to get some of the cool characters? You know,
yeah.
Why do you have to press the button 1,000 times to get through that conversation to just put the shells in the machine and get a little trinket? Oh my god! Luckily in emulation mode, you can play it in fast forward, so it's it speeds that up a lot. But even that was infuriating. Jesus.
Can I do one further? Why the fucking shells at all? Why are we collecting these little shits? For nothing.
Just one more fun thing to pick up, you know.
I completed that mini game / side quest in its entirety. What I did towards the end is eventually you reach a point where you have to spend so many shells to bet on a new figurine appearing. And so
how many is it at the end?
Well, the idea is that it goes down by 1%. And so you start off and you need to put in just one shell and you get 100% guaranteed to get a new thing. But then with each subsequent pull, it goes down and down. And so it gets down to I think 10%. And so you have to add in at least 90 other shells. Of course, you don't have to do that exactly. You can play it fast and loose and just put in like 40 and assume you get 50-50 chance of a new thing. What I would do towards the end is there's this other guy in town that runs this mini game where you can choose between 3 different treasure chests. And if you choose between the correct treasure chest enough times in a row, you can continuously triple the amount of rubies you put into the mini game. And basically, if you do it 5 times in a row, he's obliged to give you 999 rubies, and then he kicks you out. And so what I would do is I would use the rewind functionality on the Nintendo Switch so that whenever I would choose the wrong chest, I would just rewind, choose the correct chest, and then do that over and over buy shells from the other vendor in town and then roll for the correct figurine. I only did that once I ran out of shells. Up until that point, I tried to use what shells.
How many hours of your life did you spend getting and redeeming shells?
I mean, when I reached the point where I had to rely on that particular sequence of events, I basically was done with like 90% of the figurine collection, so probably only like an hour and a half.
It's not too bad.
Right.
You get a cool little medal, right? Once you get them all the figures?
Yeah, you get like a cool little medal that you can view from your menu. Very cool.
It's beautiful.
And the figurines, they're not like displayed anywhere.
No, you
can look at them.
Nobody knows you have them.
There's a computer over to the right where you can view them. There's like a little description explaining what they are.
They're cute. I enjoyed doing it, but like it just is infuriating that
it did take forever.
Conversation. You have to talk to that guy over and over and over. Oof. That's the number one annoying thing for me.
What else fucking sucks about this game?
Another one, when you're in the final dungeon in Hyrule Castle, there is no way to progress unless you find a hidden wall you have to blow up. I was lost for like an hour and just wandering around this castle, like trying to figure out where haven't I gone yet. And eventually, I fell back to Google to figure this out for me. And there's, the wall does make the noise. I don't know if you know, like when
your sword.
If you poke it with the sword, it does, change the sound in that spot. But there are no cracks on that wall.
Right.
I don't know how people were supposed to figure this out before the internet existed in the current form it does. Did anyone else encounter this, or did I miss something? Like,
when we played The Legend of Zelda, the Link to the Past, this was our very first BARF game that we ever did on the show, and I fucking hated that game because it was filled with that kind of shit. It's just a different era where it's like you have nothing to do but read the manual on the car trip home and it tells you all the things you need to know, and then you get around there and it's like, what the fuck do I do with this chicken? Surprise, you do some ritual and you cut its head off at the well and now you can fly or something like that. And that game, so there were so many things like that, and this game had a few of those that are just like, it is impossible that anyone would know to do this here.
How did you find that wall? How did you find the wall, Cozy?
I remember someone like 12 hours prior in gameplay just randomly in town saying, sometimes you can poke a wall and it makes a different sound. And it's like,
but is that how you found that wall you blow up in the dungeon?
I don't remember
I don't know
exactly
what struck me or what made me poke the walls, but yes, I do remember being like, well, I don't see anything in here. Maybe I'll poke the walls.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just saw this wall and I was like, it seems kind of obvious, and I was on my way.
Wow.
There were so many for me. in the fucking the swamp area. There was another where you're actually kind of where, no, not in that one. In the swamp area, there are a bunch of places where you're supposed to like bomb things in certain spots that aren't marked. And you have the regular walls that are like blah blah blah. But then there are like walls that like there happen to be 2 pots on either side of it or something like that. Or like a couple of pieces of grass or something like that. And that's even like a visual clue. Although me taking the game at face value, there was a sign like 12 feet away from the wall that you're supposed to bomb that says no bombing or something like that. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not gonna use my bombs here. Like,
don't do it.
And then I Googled it and I found out, you're supposed to bomb that thing. I was like, fuck you. Tell me not to bomb it. There were also like there was another one where the vases. Oh my God. The vases in Hyrule Town where they're upside down and you're supposed to flip them. Nothing in this game had told me up until this point that you shrink down in something other than just those fucking Aztecian looking portals that you find in the Minish Woods.
Yep.
Nothing told me, first of all, you can jump in a vase, but also the vases upside down just look like beanbags. How am I supposed to know that's if I use my flippy new wand on that vase and turn it upside down on that beanbag, it turns into a vase, and then once it's a vase, you're supposed to go inside of it. No, nothing in this fucking game told me that except for Google.
I do want to say,
motherfucker.
If you're watching on stream right now, this is where I stopped playing, and it's because I could not find this thing to make you go small, and it was hidden by a bunch of webs, and I had no idea you could get rid of the webs. And
Yeah, suck them up.
While you guys are talking about the game, I Googled a IGN guide and saw, I was like, had no idea this thing was here.
Yep.
Didn't really have an issue with that. I will say, I do think the game could do a better job, could have done a better job of explaining the functionality of the cane that you use to flip objects over. Feel like it could have maybe done a better job of being like, hey, like, this is what this cane does. If you see objects with these particular markings, definitely use it on those. But I will admit, I've definitely benefited going into this game from having played it multiple times before, because a lot of this stuff was like pretty muscle memory for me.
Yep. Yeah, I think I had started it many, many years ago because the beginning first like dungeon felt familiar, but after that I was completely fresh.
You know what fucking sucks about this game? Kinstone pieces. For
I
two
love
reasons.
the kinstones.
No, kinstones suck for two reasons. One, in the very beginning of the game, when you're already being like inundated with 1,000 other things, they very, very, very briefly tell you hit the left bumper to talk to someone and exchange kinstone pieces. Nowhere else is that ever mentioned again.
They don't repeat that anywhere.
And nowhere in the UI does it tell you the L button does anything at all.
But there are also only like 5 buttons total. You just have to hit all the buttons and you'll find it.
Well, that's the other thing. I kept talking to people, and I just thought maybe specific people in my quest would, when I talk to them, say, "Oh, you have a kinstone piece? So do I. Let's swap or something, or let's touch
press this button."
And nobody ever said it. And so I literally got to the swamp area, whereas the first place in the game where you cannot progress without a kinstone piece. And I got there, and I had just been picking them up the whole game. And of course, in the swamp area too, you start picking them up like crazy. And those every piece of grass has a kinstone, every enemy has a kinstone. I started to fucking hate them. I was like, I have 400 of these fucking things, and I don't know what to do with them, and nobody wants them, and I can't go anywhere, and I can't progress. And then I Google, and you're like, oh, go up to the fucking 3 totems and click the left button to give it a kinstone piece. And I was like, left button
again. Could have
I could have been giving people kinstone pieces this
GBA.
whole time.
Would have been.
I think
so
that's
easy.
when I learned it too. Actually, was right there. Yep.
Man, you guys need to read these NPCs more. You see the guy with the music box come up to you. You guys are like, look at this stupid music box, man. I'm not going to listen to anything that he says. Joke's on you.
The second reason why kinstone pieces suck is because, well, then like almost everyone has some kind of kinstone piece that you can swap with them. But 50% of those kinstone pieces have you trek back to some place you've already been, solve some puzzle to get to a treasure chest that has another fucking kinstone piece in it. I swapped the kinstone piece for another kinstone piece that I didn't even want to begin with.
So I think I'm in the middle of Dane and Chad in terms of how I feel about kinstone pieces. I think I like the kinstone piece collecting minigame in this game. I think that if you're just trying to complete the game and not 100% it, I think it's totally solid. I think if you're trying to go for 100% kinstone collecting and combining completion, I think things get a little bit annoying in that, one, the economy with which the game gives you kinstone pieces is a little out of whack, where you get a lot of blue and red kinstone pieces, especially if you're opening those treasure chests, but early on in the game, you don't really get a lot of green kinstone pieces, even though green kinstone pieces are like the kinstone pieces that most people want
green
to
is all
combine with you. Well,
by the time I was in the swamp and actually started using kinstone pieces, I had literally like 45 green kinstone pieces.
See, that's the thing. Is like, it's one of those things where it's like the more kinstone pieces you fuse with people, the more blue and red that you get. But then overall, people mostly want green and not blue and red, which makes it a little bit out of whack. The other thing that's a little bit annoying, and again, this is very much one of those things where you're only going to really encounter this issue if you're trying to 100% every single kinstone piece in the game, which not everyone is going to do, but it's a little difficult to determine who you can or who you need to fuse kinstone pieces with. For multiple reasons. Sometimes you have some people that will stop fusing kinstone pieces with you after a while. Just something that naturally happens as you progress through the game. There are some people that will offer to fuse multiple kinstone pieces with you in a row, but it's like not immediately obvious that they want to do so.
Oh, and then, I didn't even know you could do more than one with a person.
Most annoyingly, there are some people that will fuse multiple kinstone pieces with you, but not in a row. You have to come back to them after you advance to a certain point in the story. And so there are definitely multiple NPCs where I fused a kinstone piece with them once. I was like, cool, I fused a kinstone piece with that person. I'll check that person off my list, and then didn't know at all that you had to go back to them later on and, oh, they have another kinstone piece fusing thing available with them. That was really annoying. I will say, like, all that said, I enjoy the process of fusing kinstone pieces with people. I think it's a fun little mechanic in this game. I would love to see another Zelda game in the future, like, bring this mechanic back and figure out a way to do it that's more improved upon. But knowing how Nintendo very seldomly repeats things like these, I don't think we're ever going to see it again.
I agree that it would be fun to see again in like an open world Zelda, because it does give you an excuse to kind of travel around a bit more and go to new areas. So yeah, I actually got down to only, I think I have 7 more kinstones left to fuse. I was trying to get through them all today, but there were a few I couldn't figure out.
How do you know how? Is there a
so
finite
the
number of
tingles,
kinstones you can pick up?
tell you
the
how many
gotcha.
left. Yeah,
and I've never found a fucking tingle. I didn't even know it existed till today.
They're like, oh, you've only got 11 left. Oh, you've only got 10 left.
Okay.
It's kind of fun. I can't believe you didn't see them, by the way.
I don't know
like,
how. I thought
there's
that
one
I did,
just
like, every
there's one
side
right
quest
by
that I ever
Lon
did.
Lon Ranch. He's like just chilling right on a ledge right there.
Yeah.
So I saw on a screenshot today where Tingle was standing. I was like, oh, I remember seeing something that looked like there's a little platform where something would happen later in the game, but then nothing ever happened in those things, and I forgot about them. So like whatever triggers Tingle showing up at those places, I just never triggered, I guess.
Yeah, I think I encountered a bug too, because I was never able to unlock the largest wallet. So I was stuck maxing out at 500 rupees or whatever, which sucks.
Did you talk to the fairy? Did you lie to the fairy?
I did. Well, no, I told her the truth. I did the fairy correct.
You?
No, I mean, I think I lied the first time, but then realized that was a mistake. But so yeah, I did that, and then there's the mayor, or not the? Is it the mayor? They open up a spot in the ground east of the ranch, and I went there, got that chest. But yeah, I played the whole game only getting 500 coins total, and that kind of sucks because there's a few items you can't buy.
Yeah, the bigger bomb bag, the bigger
exactly. Yeah, I managed to beat the final boss with only 50 arrows, which wasn't really that hard, but because they spawn a lot there. But
I have just one more grievance with this game.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple more shitty things, so tell yours. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Now, this is the thing about this grievance is it's not something that's actually unique to this game. It's also present in the prior few portable Legend of Zelda games before this one. And it's that I really don't love the button situation in this game where you have to assign every single equipable item to either the A or the B button.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I can't be too angry at this game because this is a Game Boy Advance game, and the prior portable Zelda games before this, were all on the original Game Boy. Very, very limited economy of buttons to go around. And so, I can look to a game like Ocarina of Time, which, has a dedicated sword button, a dedicated shield button, and then 3 additional items that you can assign items to. And that game clearly does item remapping, item assigning in a much more superior manner, but that game also benefits from being played with the Nintendo 64 controller, which this game does not. All that said, it's just one of those things where playing through the game, I'm like, man, I really love the selection of items that this game gives you. I love the Gust Jar. I love Rock's Cape.
Don't start talking good about this game yet.
I love all these items, but I really wanted to switch between them and use a lot of them more. And I just felt like the kind of cumbersome nature of constantly having to go into the menu and assign every item to either the A or the B button over and over kind of discouraged me from doing so. And I do wish, you do kind of wonder if they could have perhaps instead of equipping the ocarina, they had maybe incorporated the ocarina into the game's map, because it's basically just a fast travel system in the game, for example. But I also understand
a whole L button that apparently didn't have anything to do on it. So
it is one of those things where I understand that other games, future games, had to make those advancements and those little how do you say shortcuts in order for
quick item swapping would be incredible in this.
Better. Right, but we had to have had other games to figure out quick item swapping first for this game to have made those conveniences. Anyways,
like if you could hold L when you're not, busy fusing kinstones and quickly cycle between the items you have available, that would be fantastic. So much easier. Because every time
Speaking of one button having multiple uses, I can't tell you how many times I put a bomb in front of somebody's face trying to talk to them.
And that is an example, Dane, by the way, where that's a great idea, but like I would not be surprised to speak to someone who worked on Capcom back in the day and for them to be like, yeah, like the Game Boy Advance couldn't even actually handle something like that. That we actually
like memory
had to
requirements
force you,
or whatever.
Exactly. We had to force you to go back to the menu screen to equip your items because that's the only way the Game Boy Advance could handle that.
Fun to complain about, though.
Yeah.
every time I opened the menu and like tried to cycle through with L or R, I think every single time I pressed the wrong button that I wanted first.
Yeah.
So like I was constantly having to hit L and R multiple times to get to either the item menu or the map, or then I'd go to zoom in on the map and then I'd accidentally hit L or R again and I'd just exit the map. And that system was a little rough, definitely.
Some other things I hate about this game that I think are shitty. I think there are too many. There are a couple of times, not as many as Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, but a couple of times in this where it feels like the solution to the puzzle is literally talk to every single human on the entire map.
Yep.
And one of them will do the thing or tell you where to go. One of them was actually in the very beginning in Hyrule Town. I was like I was lost. I was stuck. I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I've talked to everyone. I've been in every building that I can go in right now. I talked to this guard in the top right who said, no, you can't pass. It's too dangerous out there. But I didn't talk to the guard on the left because he was standing in the same way. And in every other video game I've ever played, all the guards at the entrances of the town all say the same exact thing. Turns out that was the guard you have to talk to. And he says, oh, you have this sword ability now? Yeah, I'll let you leave. Motherfucker. Nothing else in the game told me to do that. There's another one where you're trying to get all the stupid books. And the only clue they give you is like, the third book is with an eccentric man who likes books. And I was like, bitch, I've been playing this game for 15 hours. You know how many eccentric people I've met in this game? Who the fuck has the book? And even if I knew who had the book, Lord knows if I'd remember where on the fucking map they live. And so, yeah, of course, obviously I had to Google that.
No way to put pins on the map. No names on the houses on the map. Yeah, those would all be helpful.
And the last thing that I'll say before we start talking about great things about this game, light arrows? I got light arrows, and then I beat the game, and then today, as you were talking about me peeing light, I was like, oh, that's fucking right. I got light arrows. And did I use them? Are they automatic once you get them? All your arrows are light arrows?
Yeah,
your arrows, them somewhere?
Your arrows automatically become light arrows. The difference is you can charge your arrows. So if you hold down the button, the arrow
surprise,
that you
another thing I never fucking told you.
should have played around with the mechanics a little bit more.
Wait, what is this light arrow thing?
Okay, so Dane, I have some bad news for you. If you just beat the game, you actually can't get the light arrows anymore. It's one of the few missable things in the game. Basically, late in the game, there is this place that you visit high above the clouds, a cathedral that is inhabited by people of the sky. And the thing is basically the people of the sky people, they have this old grandpa sitting in a bed that is basically afflicted by a ghost. A spirit is haunting him and making him very, very sick. Early in the game, you can fuse a kinstone piece with this one dude that opens up a portal that allows you to travel to the Sky Cathedral in a very limited capacity. You can't exit it. You don't realize at that point in time that you're high above the clouds, but you're able to explore the interior of the cathedral. You have to go to the old man that's afflicted by the ghost and basically play Ghostbuster and use your gust jar to suck up the ghost. What? The old man thanks you, and then when you come back to him later through the natural progression of the story, he thanks you by giving you the light arrows.
What? Holy cow. My brain is leaking out of my head because I did discover that portal, but much later when I was trying to round up all the kinstones and match those with people, but I was already I don't know, on the final boss when I finally discovered that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that old man died because you couldn't help him.
See, he died from that fucking ghost.
Poor guy, poor fucker. This makes me think of this old interview with Miyamoto when he was he's talking about designing the original, and he wanted it to have that sense of wonder where you're exploring the world and just trying things. That's what he literally said. I'm having trouble paraphrasing, But it also makes me infuriated with him that like his guiding principle was like, oh yeah, just try shit and maybe things will happen, maybe they won't. You just have to.
You don't have anything to
guess.
do for the next 7 days. Why not just like every single wall on the entire map? Why don't you just poke it with your sword?
Bomb everything.
You guys don't have any.
Why don't you just switch to every item and hold the button and see if it charges light arrows?
Expand your minds.
Yeah. No
Allow
imagination
your
over
free
here.
flags to fly.
Before we start talking about good things, Adam, what do you hate about this game?
Ah, man, that's the 23rd best-selling Zelda game of all time. I can't believe that's all it did. Garbage video game.
Is that an actual true stat?
Yeah.
What?
It was like 1.7 million, and yeah.
That is
even though it's like one of the most beloved, it is one of the least selling.
Well,
is that because of its release timing in North America?
I don't know.
Well, it's also the two things. So one, yes, it did come out after the DS, although it sold 1 million units in 2 months. But it was after the release of the DS, and also it just wasn't available anywhere else to purchase. Like all the other Zelda games, you can buy them 1,000 places, and now it's like the Switch Online service or something like that. Or Wii U was the only other place you could buy this if you weren't in the 3DS Ambassador program, and nobody had a Wii U, so they're not going to get any sales from that.
Huh.
Yeah, and I mean, the Game Boy Advance, like, certainly not a poor-selling platform, but I mean, it's not like... It was not as highly selling as the original Game Boy or the DS, so you'd have to imagine that every game released on it was going to see a bit of a dip as a result.
All right. What's good in this game? There are so many new powers, items, things that I was not expecting. Like usually in Zelda games, you have a lot of like repeated things. And in this, we had bombs, we had arrows, we had the Pegasus boots, we had the jumping thing. In this one, it's a cape, and sometimes it's a feather. But when I came across the jar, and I was like, oh fuck, you suck things up into it and spit them out? That's really cool. I don't know if I've seen that in a Zelda game. And then you immediately use it for a puzzle where not only are you sucking things up and spitting them out, but you're using it to like move a boat or a leaf around a bunch of water. And like, oh man, we're immediately getting into really creative uses of these things too. I loved that.
Yeah. It felt like a Mario game in that sense. Very exploratory with the items you get.
Not only are all the items in this game just really creative, top-tier items, but it also does something that a lot of other Zelda games, especially from this period, are not very successful at, which is actually finding uses for the items that you collect outside of the initial dungeon where you find them. I love The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. It's one of my favorite games in the series, but that game is definitely guilty of, we're introducing the ball and chain for the ice dungeon, and then you never use the ball and chain again, or you never use the spinner again. And this time around, I really felt like, oh man, this game is finding new and creative uses for even like the gust jar well after you first find it, which I appreciated.
Definitely.
I mean, fuck yeah, you use the gust jar to suck up that ghost for that old man and get light arrows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it had the every time I found a new item, it was very exciting because I immediately realized there were a lot of places I had passed that I could go back to use it. And I love when Zelda games do that successfully, where you're like excited to get a new tool. That's definitely a highlight for sure. Just you keep having to go back into that menu to change them.
Yep. I liked the art style a lot. I know it was
great
a year or two after. Yeah, excellent pixel art, great animations with it, and it was like kind of in the Toon Link art style almost of Wind Waker, which everyone nowadays says like, oh, what a beautiful, stands the test of time. But at the time, everyone was like, I want grown up Zelda. But I liked the look of this, and I think it stands the test of time very well.
And
Agreed,
the
completely.
soundtrack, great. Lots of great,
lots of familiar Zelda
tracks in here.
tunes. All the bangers. You know, name a Zelda tune. It's a banger.
And
there were great ones.
Light Town.
Yeah.
And jumping off of that point, like what I appreciate about this game, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier at the beginning when we were talking about Capcom's involvement in this game, is how much this game feels not just like, oh, let's miniaturize the world of the Wind Waker in 2D, but also like, how can we pay tribute to, again, every other prior Zelda game up until this point? So you have a lot of characters in Hyrule Castletown that are pulled from all the various games. You have Anju, the cuckoo lady, for example. You have Din,
speaking
Neru,
of, sorry, real quick.
and Ferrari.
Fuck that fucking chicken challenge. Did anyone get the final one? Or I don't know if it was the final one, but get all 5 chickens in 55 seconds?
I got
it required
4.
some creativity.
Does that woman ever move out of the way of the fence? Can you ever go in her house?
Also, does the ghost above her ever move out of the way? Because I know there's like a mini-me.
The brother wants him to come visit him, but he never does.
You have to fuse a kinstone piece with another ghost that you find in Royal Valley. And he goes away, and then you can shrink down to Minish form and enter in her house through the pathway that he was standing by.
See, I fused in the royal place, but then I went back, and that ghost was still just like, boo.
Same
I'm
for
depressed.
me. He
I'm
was
not gonna
still
move.
sitting there. Yep.
Anyways, getting back on track, because we're talking about things that we like about this
game. Hold on. What happens when you get the chicken? How did you get the chickens? 5 in 55 seconds. 55 burgers, 55 fries.
I used a combination of both obviously using the Pegasus boots a lot, but also what you kind of figure out is basically if you throw the cuckoos in the direction of the house and there's just no obstacles between them and the house, they will head towards the house. And so you throw all the cuckoos towards the direction of the house, and then you go back to the house when you have a few seconds left, and then you actually throw them over the fence. As opposed to carrying them all the way. I feel like I tried
to do that, and I was not. I don't know.
Seems like you need to get good.
Continue to talk good about this game.
Like I said, lots of characters in Hyrule Castletown that are tributes to characters from older Zelda games. Anju, the chicken lady that we're very mixed on. Gorman, who's the entrepreneur character who's building all the houses. He's from Majora's Mask. You have Din, Neru, Ferrari from the Oracle games. You have a lot of those characters, but then the game finds other unusual ways to pay tribute to other games in the series. Like, for example, after you acquire Rock's Cape, you can learn an ability where you can jump in the air and then stab your sword down, which is definitely a tribute to the downward thrust from Zelda 2 back in the NES days. And then earlier we were talking about Royal Valley. In that area of the game, you have to enter into the crypt of the old King of Hyrule. And the music track that plays in the old crypt is a remix of the dungeon theme from the original Legend of Zelda. And that whole sequence has a bunch of stuff from the original Legend of Zelda as well, like the keyhole blocks, for example. This game, you really feel like this game was made by fans of the Legend of Zelda series that really loved the series and wanted to pay tribute to it. But what's great is that the game, is certainly not just a pastiche of things that we liked about the older games, but a game that has a lot of new and original content in it, like all the Minish shrinking down stuff that is wholly original to it and great in its own right.
Shout out to Jacob McCord, who just subscribed with Prime. What's up, Jacob? Yeah! We just sang your praises in the main episode last hour or two ago.
I wanted to second what you were talking about with the animations as well. The first time I became small and was running around the map, the fact that they were able to give what are approximately 6 pixels so much character. I spent 5 minutes just rolling around back and forth because I was just studying how amazingly they were able to express his character with so little detail. Total hats off
to the little chat bubble above his head that shows you where he is and what he's doing.
Yeah, the little, and he's when you roll when you hit R and he rolls, and it's just these 5 little pixels rolling around on the ground, and somehow it has character and style, and it you can feel this joy of that he's experiencing rolling around as a little tiny person in this giant world. The animation was absolutely spectacular. Multiple times feeling like Pixar level. I don't know, just when you get on the platforms to make him shrink, but he's still big, and the light is coming from below, and there's this wind where the hat's up and his hair's blowing. Spectacular animation. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, and on that same kind of front, the parallax effect, which is exaggerated in small form because everything's so much bigger, just seeing the overlapping layers of things in the background and foreground moving. And I noticed this especially in some of the dungeons where you have you're playing in layers, where you have to jump down to the bottom floor, and you can actually see the bottom floor and little mini representations of things moving as you travel on the screen. And it's that's fucking wonderful. Who knew the GBA had that powerful.
And there's times you have
ability in
to
it.
notice that because otherwise you'll drop down to the wrong area. So they are like using that in the gameplay, which is fantastic. Yep.
I do want to give one last shout out to Eslo, who is your hat companion duck dude in the game. It's a very kind of common trope in all these Legends of Zelda games that usually there's some sort of waifu-ish nymph that's following you around, be it Midna and Twilight Princess, Navi and Ocarina of Time, what's her name? The robot girl in Skyward Sword. And what I appreciated about Eslo is
Astro.
No, it's Eslo. You have Astrobot on your mind. Head out of the gutter, Chad. We're talking about real Nintendo games now. What I appreciate about Eslo is the slow reveal that Eslo is actually just like an incredibly old man. Like, no, sir, you're not journeying around with like a young girl robot or a young girl dwarf or a young girl whatever. You're journeying around with like a man that has beads and beads of gray hair that is just so pissed off that he's been turned into a hat duck creature, and I thought that was very funny.
Pretty amazing reveal when he transforms and then he gives you like a normal green hat. It's like, oh, it's my first time seeing you in a green hat. You look great.
I will say this about, what's his name again? Eslo?
Eslo.
I will say this as a backhanded compliment that I appreciated that he had such character about him. Like, we would go places and he would say things like, oh God, it's scary as fucking here. Oh, we got to do it, don't we? All right, I'll do my best to like summon the courage to make us go through. Like he had character, whereas everyone else in the fucking game, everyone, like big people who like pointed you to where the next dungeon is or something like that, leaders of this town, they're just like, I lead the town. You need this stone. It's in the west.
Yeah. Eslo had all the writing dedicated to Eslo's writing, for sure. Yeah.
You should have talked with those Tingle brothers a little bit more.
Yeah,
Chad.
they were fun.
Again, I didn't fucking
they really
know the
wanted
Tingle
to meet you.
I'm Googling it right now. What makes the tingles appear? What makes tingles come?
They show up like halfway through the game or something.
I'm
for
missing tingling information. Okay.
I liked whenever Link would jump in the big like tornadoes and Eslo would get like really big and stretched out.
Yes,
just have like
and
a
like
giant
fucking gliding hat
duck
thing.
Yep. So goofy looking, so duck-like.
Yeah, very, very duck-like. We all know that ducks expand 100 times their size whenever they go in a tornado.
I want to know what everyone's favorite weapon was. Or item, I mean, like tool to use.
This game, like, it was optional at the shop, but I don't know how you could do this thing without the boomerang.
Yeah.
For a lot of those enemies, just being able to stun them, I don't see how anyone
Did you unlock the controllable boomerang?
I was going to say, the magic boomerang.
No, I remember a person saying something about, there have been legends about a boomerang that lets the user control it, in the very robotic, factual tone that everyone else says things in. But no, I didn't ever find that was an option to buy. I just thought I was using the boomerang wrong. I was like,
it's
if
buried
I throw
underground.
it with like the...
Yeah.
Okay, no. Oh, like actually buried.
Yeah, it's in a secret
That's the thing. Almost until the very
basement.
end of the game, I didn't realize you could dig down with the claws. I thought you could only dig forward through the walls. But no, if you're just standing on regular ground, you could dig down. I didn't realize that until literally like 45 minutes before the end of the game. So no, I didn't dig anywhere.
Yeah, the magic boomerang.
Oh no! You don't have to
from,
dig. You have to fuse a bunch of kinstone pieces.
Yeah, it comes from kinstones. There's like 4 trees in the courtyard of the castle, and then once you get those 4, you light some torches in those, and that opens up the middle one, and then you get the magic boomerang.
Oh,
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
My favorite was the bow and arrow. I love the bow and arrow, and they were fantastic in this game. And I'm very sad I didn't get the light arrows. I might have to try to.
That you had them, apparently.
Yeah,
so.
I need to find an old save state maybe to go back to and try that again.
For me, maybe I'm a little bit of a basic bitch choosing this as my favorite item, but I loved Rock's cape. What I love about it is like. At this point in time in the like history of the Legend of Zelda series, like Link does not really jump. Link is not known to jump in the way that Mario is not known to jump. And so when you acquire an item that not only allows you to jump, but like glide forward for a few seconds like a superhero, it is like genuinely like it feels like you're breaking the game, which I love about it.
Yeah, that is a great one for sure.
Yeah, the jump and glide also added so much like a little bit of like unpredictability. I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna land when I glide with this thing, and so like a little bit of suspense, a little bit of
because sometimes you try it and you'd completely miss what you're aiming for and just fall. Yep, overshot that chump.
All right, what is Chad looking up?
Tingle doesn't appear until after you've been to the big field in Trilby Highlands where Percy is living in a tree.
Oh, good old Percy hanging out in his tree.
Is that one of the
I'm on the second
Minish
page
people?
of this.
Percy is the character with like the blue bonnet and the book that lives in the house with the woman who's secretly a moblin in disguise. You have to light up the torches in the house to chase the moblin woman out, and then Percy moves back into his house.
So maybe you just didn't talk to Percy.
Percy went back into his house, and I just never went back into his house again. I was like, because I was in the house, and the thing disappeared, and then I went back outside of the house, and the guy was gone. I was like, oh,
success.
We didn't cross paths in the doorway. I literally walked through the door and didn't see you. And
so he was gone when you go outside. It's funny.
Yeah, he's gone when I went outside, and I just had no reason to go back into that empty house. Turns out that's the key to get all the tingles.
It's clear, Chad, that you didn't really properly appreciate this game. You should go back and spend another 10 hours with the Tingle Brothers.
I think you'd like them.
That's wild.
Chad,
I can't believe that was the key to like a giant mechanic in this game.
Chad, I know we've done this previously on an episode of, what was it? Locked and Loaded, our Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style game show. Can you tell me the names of the 3 other Tingle brothers?
There's Tingle, Tangle,
no,
Trundle, and Jill.
Nope. Adam, do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember. This is where was it? David Jr. or Davis Jr.'s in one of the.
David Jr. is one of them. Do you remember the other
ones? No, I don't
they
remember
are Ankle and Knuckle.
So Tingle is definitely a euphemism for wiener.
I mean,
if the other 2 are body parts and one of them is the person on which the parts belong, then Tingle is the wiener.
All right, Chad, you want to wrap this boy up?
Any other shitty or great things to say about this game?
The boss fight was pretty epic. I was so angry when he came back again after I thought I'd beaten the game, and he's like, "Oh no, you got one more fight!" And then I had somehow skipped the pot room just south of there, so I did not refill my hearts before going in that room. And he just destroyed me immediately, and I was so sad. But it was all, it made me feel so much joy when I finally defeated him. And I loved the little ending sequence. The artwork they showed as the credits rolled was really beautiful. I was like taking a bunch of screenshots of that. It gave me good vibes beating this one. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and it was great whenever you encountered those bosses that were normal enemies that you would just fight normally in the overworld that are now blown up to giant size because you're Minish. That was always fun.
Yeah, the giant green blobby guy, that was a good one.
Last thing I'll say is, it was a bit of a goof by accident that Chad ended up choosing for us to play a Zelda game for the month of August. If I had done the BARF game as I was supposed to in August, I probably would not have chosen for us to play a Zelda game. But, Chad, I actually really appreciate the fact that we got a chance to do this because Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom releases in a couple of weeks, and I think that going into that game, I definitely appreciate like having my memory refreshed on what the Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap was like, what with this being the last sort of traditional top-down 2D Zelda game of this style. I think that, sometimes when it comes to some of these older games, we have nostalgic rose-tinted glasses for them, and so I'm glad I got a chance to replay it, see it for everything that's good and bad about it, so I can properly judge it against the game that is releasing very soon.
You're welcome. And that leads us great into our next point, which is the game for next month, for September. Well, this month now, is an anime titty game. And
technically not anime.
Right along the same lines.
It's FMV titty game.
But they're titties. FMV titty game. What is it? Man in the Striped Pajamas? No, that's a Nazi movie, isn't it?
All men wear ties? What is it?
Plumbers don't wear ties.
There you go.
Came out on the 3DO, so everyone don't emulate that one. Just kidding.
Is this available on Vision Pro?
I
don't know.
I don't think so.
Does Delta do 3DO?
I will say though,
no idea.
I'm looking it up. I'm googling it. It is on sale on PlayStation for $9.99
Nice.
for the 12th
Nice.
of September. So if you're listening to this now, go buy it right now.
Yeah, we previously went through this in the episode we just did earlier, but the definitive edition of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is available on every modern platform: Windows, Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation 4, 5, and Switch. So you have plenty of ways to play it at the moment, in addition to the 3DO.
It looks like no, there is not even like an iOS version that you could
Yeah,
get
except for iOS.
that running.
That's okay.
Unless you
That's
like
okay.
unless you find a 3DO emulator. Great. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Dane, for joining us for the first
Thanks
time
so
in
much
3
for
years.
having me. Yeah, this was great. And as you just said, I'm now super excited to play this new Zelda game coming out. It's going to be very
Echoes
awesome.
of Wisdom, September 9th. Go play it.
September Belfish.
Yeah, what is that? 19th? I don't know. 16th? 20th?
Very soon.
Googling
September 26th. 26th.
26th.
Excellent.
That is also the day. I don't know, Adam, if you've heard about this game. I tell you what, I'll play this game and I'll let you know whether or not you should play it. Balatro. Coming to Apple Arcade, baby.
I'm so pumped.
Woo!
Sounds like a
Can
thing I
finally
would
play
like.
this game. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'll let you know if I feel like you'll like it.
By the way, Cozy, that's one of your 3 for the year you have to play as Balatro.
All right, I'm going to add it to my list right now so I won't forget.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Joel, wake up. We're about to leave. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. This has been our BARF episode for Respawn Aim Fire. If you want to vote on future ones, go to patreon.com/Respawn Aim Fire so you can vote for the remainder of the year as well. Dope. I forgot how we end these things. It's been a while since I hosted one of these, so deuces.
Bye.